Hello and welcome back to Mellohi, a DSMP podcast. This is episode 42 and today we'll be discussing the return of the egg. As always, we refer to the characters by name, specifying we're talking about the writers, and we try and focus on analysis. Alright, we're back.
Hello! We missed you all.
We are going to talk about egg.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Finally.
God, how long was it since the eggs being a big deal? When was the...
Dude, that was a while ago. Jesus. I don't know specific dates.
DSMP.
But it's been a while. It's been a good bit of time. It was surprising to even see them, like, I thought the egg, I was losing faith.
April 25th.
Oh my god. So it's gonna be a year in not that long. That's insane.
And today is 12.
That's literally insane that it's been that long. It does not feel like it's been that long at all. What? Oh my god.
Let's see. It has been 321 days. That's 10 months and 17 days.
So yeah, it'll be... We don't got long before it's a year. I'm wondering if they're gonna do something on the anniversary. Probably not. I'm gonna guess not.
Character dream, handshake, the egg, being in
Literally,
prison for almost a year.
Oh my god. And then, well, I mean, the egg thing is interesting too, because, like, you know, there's a whole thing where, like, Sam, like, claims that he's, like, got it locked up somewhere, and then Foolish talked to Bad, and Bad was like, well, what if there's another egg? Did you ever, like, he basically was like, did you ever think about that? And Foolish's face was just horrified, because, like, that's, like, I mean, the whole thing is like, if there's just one egg, that's a problem, right? But if there's more than one, and there's, like, different sources, then it's like, yeah. That's a different thing. It almost sounds like a virus of some kind, like, it just keeps spreading, and it just, like, there's nothing they can do to stop it. I mean, it just keeps coming back. Like, that is insane. Like, I don't know. The egg arc is just so interesting in the element of, like, it is cosmic horror, and I hope they, like, lead into it some more.
It is.
This time. I've been,
yeah, no, I was thinking about this earlier today before we started the episode, because I knew that this is what we were going to be talking about, and, it took my brain a second to catch up to the fact we're actually recording. But, oh my god, I think with the egg coming back, because clearly they're going to be doing something with it, so, I'm trying to figure out the right way to word this. I have loved the last two seasons, or, like, the last season, like, season 3, I loved season 3 of the DSMP. I loved the prison, I loved Exile arc, and how I really enjoyed how these different storylines are all focused on more, like, select smaller groups of people, and how there hasn't been, like, this big, like, unifying plot or event that has happened in a long time. I'd say, like, Doomsday maybe was probably the last one, which is a long time ago, but and just follow my lead here.
You're good.
I want the egg to be the next sort of big server-wide, everybody is affected by it sort of plot, right? Because it has that cosmic horror thing. It has that really, I don't know, it's such a big concept, right? This, like, alien sort of creature being, little pet shop of horrors entity that wants to spread its influence across the entire server and take everything. That's such a big concept, right? You can't pull that off on a smaller scale, where it just doesn't affect everybody. So what I really, really want is I want the egg to just traumatize everyone. I want that egg. I want the egg to go full apocalypse mode. Yes. I want it to take over half the server. I want people to not know if they can trust their friends or not anymore. I want this heartbreak as these, every fan fiction about the egg has pulled it off amazingly, of this, like, this heartbreak of being like, oh, well, my best friend has been taken by the egg. What do I do? Like, we've been friends for, like, I want Tommy and Tubbo to, like, split apart because one of them gets eggified. Like, I want it. I want it to be this huge event. I want it to be sort of the next, like, polarizing, like, everything focuses in around the egg, and the egg is the big conflict. The egg's the big bad. Like, I want it to be the new Schlatt. I want it to be the new, Dream SMP versus L'Manberg. Like, I want the egg to affect everyone and everything, and I want all of them to be traumatized. I don't want anyone to be talking about their trauma from L'Manberg or Exile. I want everyone to be talking about their trauma from the egg. Because that would be so cool.
I want to have, like, a big plot twist moment where it's revealed that someone's actually under the influence of the egg at some critical moment.
Oh, yeah. There's just, you can do so much with, like, an apocalypse, like, possession type arc, and it would let people do, like, wild shit with their characters too, when you think about it, right? Like, especially people who get stuck in sort of, like, the I'm the hero, like, role all the time. Fuck it, have them be corrupted by the egg. Take Tommy in and have him be corrupted by the egg. Let him just go off and be as much of a nuisance as he already is, but unrepentant now, and can do whatever he wants to anyone.
He can do arson in character.
And
more
competently.
Than he usually does arson in character.
Yeah, and just...
Right, so we should talk about what we've actually seen of the egg so far, which is basically just red vines are showing up on the server again. Something interesting is that apparently some of them showed up on the Remix D statue, and Bad definitely knows about it and is, like, trying to cover it up.
Yeah. I like how Bad sort of, because Foolish is freaking out, right, and Bad's acting, like, super nonchalant about it, which is, interesting.
He's just acting ridiculously suspicious.
But the fact that Bad, like, pulls the, like, well, did you ever consider the fact that there's two, there could be another one? That was a fucking... That was a back pocket move, man. Like, out of everything I've considered and, like, thought about in terms of, like, what they could do with the egg arc, I never considered the idea of there being a second one. Like, what?
Daunting already just to have one. That I was like, the second one? I mean, equally as shocked as Foolish. When Bad dropped that, I was like, holy shit. Because, like, what does that mean? Like, the implications are, like, what is the egg? Like, is it, like, what, huh? Like, is it intrinsically tied to the server? Like, is there, I mean, it didn't seem like...
One thing I'm really hoping for is the continuation of the whole thing with Foolish and the egg speaking in his head, because my theory when that first happened, and I really hope it ends up being a thing, is that he didn't actually get rid of the egg in his head. What instead happened, that the Holy One and Church Crimes sort of just kind of slowed it down, made it not able to talk to him, weakened it a bit. And now that the egg itself is returning, that voice will come back. Because I think that will be a really cool arc for Foolish.
I was actually going to say, one thing I noticed, haven't the majority of the vines that we've seen been on Foolish's stuff? Like, there's the Dream XD statue, there's the
I think the first ones were actually, like, the Doozer HQ.
Yeah, those have both gotten covered in it. I think there was another area, but I don't remember what it was. Hold on. I know Foolish is the one who found them at first, but I'm trying to think. Where else? So it was the Dream XD statue. It was Doozer HQ. It was inside his summer home
Inside
buildings.
of him? Oh my god.
Yeah. So all of the... Yeah, it was inside of his, like, snake that he has all of his stuff in. So all of the new vines, as far as I've seen, have been inside of Foolish's buildings, which is interesting considering Foolish is the one who got sacrificed to the egg. So...
Oh, wait, this actually ties into the second part of my theory, which is the egg, like, its being is no longer in the actual, like, egg itself. It's now in Foolish. Like, its mind is, like, possessing him, and he's not aware of it.
That would be terrifying.
And that's why the egg, as in, like, the actual physical egg, hasn't done anything despite Sam not really doing anything to contain it, is because it doesn't have its mind in it anymore. Its mind isn't Foolish.
Yeah. Which makes me wonder why. So maybe it got sacrificed, or Foolish got sacrificed to the egg, and in that process the egg sort of implanted itself, and the reason why it's taken so long to start growing again is because all of its other followers that it probably got strength from in some way have sort of getting knocked loose of his influence, so it was just waiting until it could get enough of a grasp on Foolish to start spreading again, which terrifying.
Part of it could also be the fact that when it talked to Foolish, he just like completely refused it.
Yeah.
So it could be that it was like laying low and not doing anything until everyone had been forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then it could strike when no one expected it.
Yeah, it's just, oh man, I'm so excited for the egg to be back. It's just so good. The egg's so good. It has so much plot potential, and I really, really hope that this time around, with more of it coming back, that the other members of the SMP will sort of put it, because I think that is the one flaw of it, right? It's not a plot that necessarily works as well if it doesn't have everyone in on it, because it's something they're trying to portray the egg as this very, very powerful cosmic entity type situation that wants to spread and gain influence, and it's showed up a little bit in Tales of the SMP, and now we have like Foolish and Bad and Sam all working on it, and like Quackity and Techno have sort of gotten into it with it, but I don't know, but the part of the problem with the egg when it first showed up, that the reason that like a lot of people were like, this doesn't really seem like a problem, is because the only people who interacted with it a lot were like Bad and the Eggpire and Puffy, and then when it got brought up to other people, they would act like Tommy wasn't affected by it, right? And then like Tubbo and Rambo messed around with it, but like none of them got infected. It was more so they were scared of Ant and Bad. And so like a lot of people
Actually, wait, you just gave me an idea of what might be an interesting plot point going forward. But the egg offering Tubbo a way to bring Romley back to life.
Oh, that'd be interesting. That'd
possibly
be...
by taking control
Wait a
of
minute.
Dream.
That'd be interesting. Oh man. Ooh. Oh man. Just there's so much you could do with the egg. I just wanted to.
There's so many like.
Okay, I want to know what's happening.
Like, I mean, you can think of some like the most batshit thing. There's so many batshit theories you can think of with the egg that could happen, because it is just like an entity that like nobody, like we still don't really understand. But at the same time, there's like people coming to like similar conclusions, like or like similar like AUs or theories. Like I've seen multiple people have the one about like an AU where it's like the prison, but everyone gets trapped in it and the egg takes over the server. I have seen multiple people come to that conclusion as like a possibility.
Oh, that's probably because that was an old theory, that the prison was built.
And like Bad Boy Halo spent all that time building up all these different things about the egg. Like, you know, like obsidian has like an effect, well, not an effect, it works as a blocker, but if you like cover the egg in it, then it also magnifies its strength when you uncover it. And like all these different things, like then like the blues and the reds and all the colors, and like he spent so long building it all up. I was like, I just can't end. Also, like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically all I'm saying is like the egg plot is just so goddamn versatile that it can literally go anywhere. I couldn't sit down and guess.
It's also like there's a whole thing with like the egg in Church Prime and Dream and Dream XD. And the whole fact that Real and Punk took some of the lines and watered them with holy water, and then they turned like the same green as Dream.
No, that's another thing. Like the color thing again. It's like it turns it green. Holy water turns it green. Then there's also Sam's done this before, where you burn it with soul fire. The blue fire. Is it soul fire? What is it called in Minecraft? The blue fire. There's a name. Soul fire? Yeah, so if you burn it with soul fire, it like can get rid of it or something like that. Like Sam like has burnt it multiple times. Like he's like made a fire and he's thrown it in there. and like he did it when Hannah's house was covered in it and he was helping her. And like there's just an interesting element of all these colors and all these like different like things, like there's rules to it, which is like really neat, because like normally the world building of DSMP is really loose and there's not a ton of rules, like there's not a ton of like boundaries or like hard lines or like consistency. It kind of is kind of fluid, but like the egg has a very consistent like sort of like deal where these things are constants.
Yeah. Yeah, it has rules it plays by. It's just hard to figure
like
out
they're
what they
there.
are.
They're definitely there. It's just that like we still have to learn more about it.
Yeah.
There's also the stuff like
yeah,
foolish and Irish
no,
in
like
the egg.
there's all sorts of stuff. Like it's insane. I don't know. It's the egg, you know.
Yeah, there's just
I think
so
I might
much with
talk
the
about
egg
it
and so
before
much they
here.
can do with it.
I really.
But I've got the theory that the reason for the egg is the reason behind Eric's memory loss.
I think I've seen that theory
And it's
too.
also, I think I've talked about it before here. And also that the egg is the egg has met Foolish before, but Foolish doesn't remember it. So the theory is that Eric and Foolish fought the egg before, and whatever happened then caused Eric to lose most of their memories, and Foolish to lose his memories of the egg.
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of zoned out there. I'm sorry, but it's so hard to stay focused. Oh my god. What? Real quick. What? Everyone's gonna be like, "Wow, Sabu can't pay attention." But what were you saying? I am so sorry.
Basically, I've got a theory that the reason Eric doesn't remember being friends with Foolish, and the reason that Foolish doesn't remember the egg, despite the egg saying that they've met and fought before, is that in the past, Eric and Foolish fought the egg, and the egg caused Eric to lose their memories, and Foolish to lose his memory of eating the egg.
Yeah, that
would be
I think
interesting.
Would be
Yeah,
interesting.
I think the egg. It does feel like the egg is
Also,
somehow
maybe it will
involved.
help solve all the memory loss.
I don't know how, but
and maybe Puffy met the egg as well.
Yeah.
I think the egg's involved because wasn't part of the village that went mad's lore sort of pulled into the egg with somebody running around with red eyes
it was
as
like
well
the
as Foolish being there?
Yeah, the red eye.
Yeah, and Punk's lore.
Villager Wars, was that the name? It had to do with Punk's ancestor.
Yeah.
And then there's the cats in the walls and the there's some other like wild stuff, but yeah, there's definitely a history there.
Oh, and also that's the other connection.
Yeah.
With Foolish, because there's something about like Punk's ancestor
Made of
and
straw
like
with emerald
a man.
That was actually a really
made of
cool
straw,
description.
yeah.
Oh god.
He came, and then after he came to the village, people started going mad.
And it was like a whole thing.
Actually, wait, now I'm thinking, could it be that Foolish and the egg maybe used to work together?
That could. I mean, he was a totem of death.
Yeah, there's something there.
We know what the.
I'm thinking the way of like the Eggpire, not in like way he's influenced, in the way like they were
maybe.
equals.
Do you guys remember the exact words from when there's that whole scene where like Foolish dies at the red banquet and then he's kind of floating in that void and the egg talks to him? Do you remember the exact, like, does the egg know, like the egg knows him, right? Yeah.
The egg knows
and like
him.
he knows the egg, right? Or is it just he doesn't? I can't remember exactly.
Foolish doesn't remember the egg.
Okay,
the
so
egg
see, now
knows
that's
him,
sus.
though.
That's suspicious. Like there's definitely, it feels like there's something to do with memory or something. Like something is getting like, somehow this egg, I don't know, it feels like there's some kind of memory corruption here. I won't lie, if they tie the egg into everybody having terrible memories as well, that will be impressive. Also, it will explain a lot.
Turns out it's not Puffy's fault, it's actually the fault of the egg, unless Puffy is actually
secretly the egg.
new conspiracy theory, Puppy was
Puppy
secretly
actually,
the egg the
like,
whole time.
I mean, Puppy's got the whole
Yeah,
thing where
I
she like came in like a pirate ship and stuff, and it's like, you know what I mean? I mean, nobody knows where she's from. I mean, she doesn't know.
She doesn't remember.
I mean, she doesn't remember anything. So I mean, like, you know, anything goes. You know, anything goes. I don't know. Oh god, it's just trying to figure out like what's gonna happen with the egg is. It's like throwing you're you're kind of just like throwing darts at the board. Like, I mean, because it's just there's so many possibilities. Like, I didn't think the red banquet was gonna go the way it
Throwing
did.
spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks.
I didn't either. I think a lot of people thought that was gonna be sort of like the finale of the egg, or it was gonna be the moment where the egg.
I thought it was gonna
and
hatch.
then sort of started its actual takeover of the server. Yeah, or it was gonna hatch or something, but that's not what we got. But it sounds
And we
like
kind of just got
that's
nothing for ages.
gonna happen at some point.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Bad has like talked about it before, how he wants to do the egg finale, but he keeps getting like people are busy and stuff, so he's not got the chance. And he's like, oh, hopefully if nothing comes up, I'll be able to do it in like the next week, and then it just never happens.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's happened a few times. I remember people started just saying like it's never gonna happen. It's just not. It's it's a lost cause. But I don't know. The egg is such a different sort of storyline for the Dream SMP, which has mostly been more of a political, governmental sort of struggle and plot line for a lot of it. Even in the prison arc, it was still sort of that like. It was still about like, you know, institutions of power and like politics to an extent, but I don't know, the egg is just so different because it really focuses in on that supernatural element, and that has sort of become more of a thing in the rest of the server with the revival book and now the death book that Sapnap has, but it was still like it's like a back burner thing. Like, it was more of an excuse to keep Dream alive than it was necessarily, you know, like its own thing. Like, I think it's becoming more of a problem now with the death book. Like, that's becoming its own sort of like arc of supernaturalness. But like the egg was the first really supernatural, not human v human, or, you know, humanoid versus humanoid. Because Techno's a pig. So like it's such a different type of story for them, and it was so interesting, and it was so well done, and Bad and Ant did such a great job acting. The only downside of it was that it was something that they didn't seem to be able to get a lot of people willing to go along with for other things, right? Like, they couldn't get like anyone involved in the L'Manberg stuff couldn't really become super heavily entrenched in it, in case it messed with the L'Manberg stuff, because it was its own thing. It was a separate thing, which is why now what I'm really hoping for is that it sort of merges together with, you know, whatever's going on with the Syndicate and with Dream and Las Nevadas and Kanoko and that kind of thing, so that the supernatural stuff can become, because I think that'd be a really interesting sort of twist away from what they've done a lot of, because a lot of it has been that sort of like human v human, like person v person sort of conflict, and this sort of supernatural entity could be a really great way to let people change up what they've been doing with their characters and sort of like figure out what life would be like if they, or like what would happen if their characters stopped having these, like, you know, interpersonal conflicts and then sort of an intrapersonal conflict, and how their relationships would change if, you know, if they had that common enemy for all of them to fight against. And I want that to happen because I think the egg is a really great choice for that. And I think with the way that the egg works, you can have a lot of people who are like, well, I want to be evil.
The whole, like, greatest desire thing.
Yeah. Like, that's such a
like,
good...
Not only does it give a good reason for a lot of characters to join the egg, but it also lets the writers explore things about their characters that they might not get to explore in another in another storyline because their characters wouldn't normally talk about what their greatest desire is.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's such a popular, like, plot amongst the, fan fiction, is that, because there's so many Eggpire fanfics, especially amongst anyone who likes, like, the Sea Dream apologist community. A lot of them really focus in on the egg, because it's fascinating.
Also because it gives a good film that isn't Dream.
Yeah, that's true. Partially that.
Okay, like, let's be honest. Most Dream apologist fics, if they have a villain, it's Sam, Quackashi, the Egg, or Wilbur.
This is true. Yeah, usually. Unless they do like a
occasionally
full
Tommy
AQ,
plays
but
and like
usually
an
it's not
antagonist
Tommy.
role,
Usually Tommy's
but
just sort of.
yeah.
And
Tommy
if he is,
he's
not
got like a
because
henchman.
he's like, yeah.
He's like, if he is, he's like a henchman. He's not like the main baddie.
He's either a
periphery to the main
henchman
baddie.
or it's like he's not like a true like villain. It's more of just like he's just an antagonist to
Wilbur.
Dream. Because I've read fan fictions where like there wasn't like Wilbur, like Quackity and Sam are usually big like villains, and then Tommy is either ends up somehow helping Dream and being on Dream's side, or he's against Dream but isn't like
usually he's like going through his own stuff.
right,
At the same
like
time.
it's his own stuff, and like he's not
Or it's just not relevant.
like he's not really a threat to Dream in any way except through his words. Or if he is, like, I don't know, there's just not a lot of fan fictions where, like, anytime there's a fan fiction where Tommy's going after Dream, it's usually as a secondary threat versus Quackity and Sam or Wilbur, who are, like, the main actual threats to him, and then Tommy's just someone he has to try and avoid. Like, I know I've seen some fan fictions that are sort of... What was it? I don't know. There was one really depressing one where, like, character Dream was revealed to be, like, actually, like, around the same age as Tommy or something, and he had some tragic backstory, and then it ends with Tommy just, like, this is, like, one of the only fan fictions I think I read where Tommy was actually, like, a villain type character, and even then he was still kind of sympathetic, but he kills Dream's cat. And the cat was literally the only thing keeping Dream going, and so Dream, like,
it's
offed
like
himself.
And he's a jerk, like he's being a terrible person, but you get why he's doing it.
Yeah.
It's very well written.
God, that fanfiction fucked me up, though. I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a happy ending, and then no, instead what we get...
Sadness.
No, that fanfiction, what the hell? Like, what? Who... Like, I thought it was gonna go into, like, a recovery arc. He was gonna leave and find, like, a happy, like, a way to be happy. And instead, Tommy just fucking kills his cat. And then he kills himself. Are you joking? What?
Spoilers?
I mean, I don't even know. I don't know what the name of the fan fiction was, so I think if I don't say it, I'm sure it'll be vague enough that it won't spoil or anything necessarily. Just know that there's a fan fiction out there where Dream dies at the end because Tommy kills his cat. Yeah, that was... Wow. Hello, and welcome back to the Mellohi Spotlight. In case you're new, the Spotlight section of our podcast is our and your opportunity to highlight fan content creators for the Dream SMP. Whether they be artists, writers, fan theorists, or any other type of content creator, we want to give them a chance to shine, and thanks to you, we can do that. If you ever have any recommendations for a Mellohi Spotlight, feel free to leave a comment in our Twitter or on our YouTube page. This week, we are showcasing Boo, or as their Twitter handle might describe them, Misty Ghost. She is an artist who makes Dream SMP and Minecraft YouTube art on Twitter. While a lot of the art focuses around the Dream team, there's also some really well done art of Sam, his character that is, Puns, the Bench Trio, and the Fiancé Trio, and many other content creators and characters. Their color choice and method of coloring their art is really pleasant to the eye, and she's done a lot of small detailing into the coloring of her art that adds more depth to the characters and scenes. In particular, I really enjoy her Sam design, and I think that art is really adorable. You can go and check Boo out at Misty Ghost, that's spelled MIISTYGH0ST, on Twitter. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Okay, but back to the egg. It does make a great villain, especially because it's probably the closest thing to, like, a proper villain that the Dream SMP has. Because most of the other antagonistic characters really do fit more in the role of, like, anti-heroes.
Yeah,
or anti-villains, I guess.
So the thing is with the villains on the Dream SMP is that most of them are, in some ways or another, if you look at them long enough, sympathetic. Like, Wilbur's a sympathetic character, Sam's a sympathetic character, Quackity's a sympathetic character, Dream's a sympathetic character. Fuck, Schlatt is a sympathetic character if you look at him right, in the sense of, like,
yeah, I feel like a lot of people just sort of, like, reduce him to, oh, he's just a bad guy.
We should have an episode on Schlatt.
His character is actually, like, yeah, we should, actually. When actually his character has some really interesting bits that often just kind of get dismissed in exchange for, like, a more fanon version.
Yeah, Schlatt's like a... And I don't blame people for, like going
before
with
people were making Dream a 2D villain for the sake of being evil character, they were doing it to Schlatt, okay?
Yeah, and I don't blame them, because, like, if you only watched really, like, Pogtopia,
and the funny thing is they did the same thing with Wilbur. Like, the whole thing where you'd have fics where it's like, Schlatt is actually, like, a really nice guy, and Wilbur's evil, and then you also have ones the opposite way around, where Wilbur's, like, great, and Schlatt is, like, way more evil than he ever was in canon.
Yeah, it's,
like, obviously, the majority of the people in the fandom are going to be really familiar with that, because a lot of them are very old fanfics.
Yeah, and I,
before November 16th.
Yeah, November 16th. God, it's weird to think that was almost, like, 2 years ago now. Well, no, not 2 years ago. It's been over a year. Wow. Weird. I don't know. I don't, like, blame people for not seeing Schlatt as a sympathetic character, because, to be fair,
like, he's
only really sympathetic when you, like, take him at, like, face value, right? Because, like, if you just think of him as the funny, like, he's a villain, right? Like, he's the bad guy, but he's also hilarious. He's very, like, charismatic in that way, and, like, it's funny, like, you know, as the Emperor, like, he has some iconic lines, and if you just look at him and, like, how he treats other people, it's really when you only, like, actually start, like, focusing in on a few things that he said, and then the way that, you know, just him, and, like, seeing him from, like, when he joins the server to his death, and how he acts, especially as his alcoholism, or, it's not alcohol, is it? It's like protein shakes or something. His protein powder shakes or whatever. As he gets more and more, you know, addicted to them, and how he sort of just completely falls apart and has no one there. Like, it's if you're looking at it, from the status of Pogtopia, then it's not really sympathetic. It's not, like, sad. It's like, oh, yeah, like, look how terrible he is. But, I don't know, it is very, like, Schlatt's death and, like, his whole lead up to his death is actually really sad when you just consider the fact that, like, he's just on his own, has nobody around to be his friend unless he pays for them. Because, admittedly, he is a douchebag, don't get me wrong. But, like, it's just, and just him falling, like, further and further into his own addiction and stuff, and it's just, like, yeah, it's, Schlatt, literally any character on the Dream SMP can be made sympathetic, and I think that's part of the reason why the Egg is such a good villain, is because it's, like, an other, like, it's not,
and
can't make the Egg
I'm an Egg
sympathetic.
apologist.
I mean,
It
yeah.
just wants to take over the server. It should be allowed to do that if it wants to. When has it ever hurt anyone that hasn't hurt it first?
I think
I mean,
the
technically
only...
foolish, but we know they have history. We don't know that history is. Foolish might have tried to kill the egg first, okay?
Yeah. You can be an apologist for the egg, right? Like, I don't think you can be an apologist for the egg in the same way that you can necessarily
See, my
be an
argument is that
apologist
the
for
egg
somebody
isn't human,
else.
so we can't expect it to follow human morality, so therefore it cannot be either good nor evil.
I mean, yes! Yeah, it gets complicated, because it kind of depends, like, you can't judge the egg by the same standards as people, but you also kind of can, because it's sentient. So, like, it'll talk. Like, if it was just, like, a plant that just grew and, like, killed people and like, possessed people and that was kind of it, like, it didn't have a sentience to it, then I would say, yeah, you can't really call that evil. It's just, instinct. That's just what it do. But it's more of, like a Mind Flayer in Dungeons & Dragons or a Beholder are evil. They aren't human, and they have completely different standards for what is and is not okay to do to people, but they're still evil because, they're murdering people and taking over their bodies to gain their own power. So, like, the egg is evil, but that's okay for the egg. The egg's allowed to be evil because that's just what the egg is. But I don't know, I think that's what makes the egg such a cool villain, though, is that you don't really have to deal with the tricky morality of it. Like, why is the egg doing
Also,
this?
it lets you turn other characters into villains, even if it wouldn't typically be in character for them to be so. Because if the egg has control over someone, it has control over their actions. So you can, for instance, have friends betray each other and such.
Yeah.
So it lets you have a lot of very interesting possibilities with storytelling.
Yeah, it definitely does. 'Cause like you said, it can make people change, right? Like, they'll always, like, Ant Frost is still Ant Frost, and Bad is still Bad. It just sort of makes them into, like, the worst, like, the most selfish, worst versions of themselves, right? Because, like, Ant is willing to, when Ant's corrupted by the egg, he's willing to kill people. He's willing to corrupt other people to get whatever his greatest desire was. But once you sort of remove the egg's influence from him, yeah, he still wants that thing, but he's not gonna kill people for it. He's not gonna corrupt people for it. He's very apologetic over the fact that he, in fact, killed Foolish. So, like, it makes them...
But you sort of have to question, if it was someone other than Foolish, would he have been willing to kill if it was someone that he wasn't previously, like, friendly with?
I mean, probably, but that's not really a judge on his moral character, considering the entirety of the SMP is pretty much willing to kill people they don't know. So, like, I don't know, I think the egg influences the characters to be, but it doesn't fundamentally change who they are, right? Like,
I think from what we've seen, it might be able to influence them via getting the thing that they care most about, like finding that out, then making them want that more than anything else, and then offering to help them get it.
Yeah.
It's not just like simple like mind control. It's a bit more complicated.
Yeah, it's got more
nuance.
Nuance. That's better. I was gonna say finesse. I was like, that's not really it. It's they're still themselves, but they're just not. I feel like what the egg does is that it's like the devil on your shoulder, but just stronger. It's like, I don't think it forces anyone to do something that they themselves would not, under the right circumstances, be willing to do. Like, I think Ant would kill people, right? Like, I don't think Ant has a problem with murder. I don't think that Bad has a problem with murder. It's the Dream SMP. No one has a problem with murder, right? But I think the egg sort of dampens that, like it makes things seem more necessary than they might be. Like, it I don't know, it's like, what's the best way to put it? Like, I don't think it fundamentally changes who they are as people, but I think it sort of blurs out that conscience that they have that might keep them from doing the worst things, and sort of like sweetens them up into being like, well, yeah, like, if you do this, then you can have Skeppy forever, or you can have money. I don't know what it promised puns. You can have chaos. Like, it sweetens the pot, right? Like, it's a tempter. It's a temptress is like for females. I don't know. I don't know what the egg is. It tempts people, and it sort of coerces them into doing, you know, what they wouldn't necessarily be reluctant, that they might be more reluctant to do. Like, it makes things more reasonable, even if, like, I don't know, it's such a weird thing, right? Because, I feel like these characters, a lot of the stuff that they do, they'd have no problem doing under normal circumstances, but wouldn't do it without provocation. And the egg is just the thing that makes that provocation real. I don't know. The egg's confusing. I love the egg. The egg's great, but it is confusing.
I think most of us on the podcast are egg fans. I think Sunny's actually the one who made, like, the Egg Sightings Twitter account, right?
The Twitter account?
Yeah, like, a Twitter account for when the red vines were spotted in translations and stuff, I think.
Oh, yeah!
I'm not sure if he made it, or if he was just, like, an admin, or...
There was, like, a Twitter account or something that, like, tracked the blood vines. Blood Vines Reports, that's it, I think. Yeah. So they provide information on what the blood vines are, where the blood vines show up, and any of the egg lore.
Yeah, Mod Sunny.
Oh! Sunny? Yeah, that might be our Sunny, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I remember him posting about it.
It is magical to me
when
that Sam literally did absolutely
mod.
fuck all to actually secure the egg. Oh my god.
He, like, visited once and tried to, like, blow it up or try and move it or something, and then didn't work, so he just slapped it, and he's like, I'm gonna put it in the bank, and then the bank takes ages to even get partially built.
Yeah. It's so... I'm just scanning through their Twitter account real fast. Yeah, no, all the egg vines that have shown up have been on full of
not exactly, like, there's, like, two wooden gates in the way of going in.
I don't even think he put those in. I think those were there from the banquet. He literally did nothing.
Okay, but it's cool that they were on top of the Dream XD statue, because we know there's some connection there.
Yeah, that has implications.
I wonder what's gonna happen. I wonder if Dream XD shows up again and sees the vines on the statue, what he would think.
Yeah. I don't know. We haven't really heard what Dream XD's sort of thought process is on the egg. Like, has he talked about the egg ever? Like, I don't feel like, I know he hates bad.
Like Bad Boy Halo, yeah.
Yeah.
And since we're assuming he's connected with Church Prime, and the holy water from Church Prime hurts the egg, gets rid of it, whatever, like, presumably they're opposed. But we haven't, like, I don't think we've had his direct opinion on the egg itself before. And also there's the fact that their voices do sound similar, which is interesting as well.
Yeah. So...
Which might suggest that they're, like, the same type of being, maybe?
I don't know, that's an interesting thought. I'm trying to think, like... There has to be a connection, right? Or, like, they have to, like, the egg has been around, like, a long time, and it's a pretty, like, strong, you know, like, entity that is seeming pretty, you know, like, it wants to take over the server. Like, that feels like something that DreamXD would not be super happy about. And considering the egg seems to actually have the power to do it, or at least make a pretty fair shot at taking over a good portion of it, that DreamXD, who we all know is sort of a jealous hoe, and, you know, has a very, like, has an ego, would not be super down for that. So, I don't know, the chances feel like they've interacted before, and that, you know, DreamXD would not be happy about the egg, but also maybe, I don't know, maybe he sees it as beneath him to mess with it. I don't know, DreamXD is also a weird character. Like, I don't know, like, his personality and, like, his sorta, like, how he makes his decisions is very unclear, other than, you know, what will cause death and entertain him. But I feel like he'd be kind of pissed off if there was something else trying to basically, because the egg also consumes, like, souls or something, right? So, like, you'd think he'd be pretty, like, possessive over getting rid of it, unless he is the egg, which is a theory.
We don't even know if he knows about the egg. Like, him showing up more and the egg kind of going dormant line up pretty closely.
Yeah.
So it's possible that he just doesn't know about the egg, or maybe he thinks it's defeated, but he still hates Bad for helping it. Or maybe he knows that the egg is still around and that Bad is still under his influence, which is why he hates Bad. But he doesn't have enough influence over, like, the material world to do anything about it, which maybe that's connected to why he gave Carl time travel powers, so that he can learn about the egg and then tell other people about it so he can actually deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, there is always the theory that, like, DreamXD is related to, like, he is the egg. Because I know that has been, like a, not, like, a strong theory, but just a theory because of him sort of, like, showing up and getting close to Foolish after Foolish had his whole, you know, sacrifice to the egg.
It's more of, like, a two sides of the same coin situation.
Maybe.
Where there's sort of, like, the same entity split into two aspects. If that makes sense.
Yeah. That could be it. I just, what was it? Yeah, no. They could be, I was just thinking about this, because there is the whole thing with the egg vine that Ponk messed with and put holy water on, and it turned, like, lime green, like DreamXD. So, maybe, like, the egg vine's like the eggs are like a baby god, and when it hatches, it's gonna be a god that is, like, new, like, maybe, I don't know. It's so hard to tell. Or maybe that's just, like, a sign of, like, if he comes into contact with enough holy water that DreamXD somehow gets influence over it, which is also kind of terrifying, you know? I don't know. There's so many potential, you know, like, there's so many potential things that it could be, and I don't know which one.
Anyway, I think that's pretty much what we've got for today.
Think so. This was fun. Looking forward to Egg.
Did we get any
taking over the
answers
server.
for the last question of the week, actually?
Oh, I thought we had at one. Somebody.
Anything to do with the egg or one of the past Tales episode?
Yeah. That's.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about it anyway, just in talking about the egg and the backstory. Because so the question was, what sort of backstories would you like to see from Dream SMP characters in the future? And this person mentioned stuff to do with the egg, and we talked about character backstories possibly being to do with the egg. So we actually sort of discussed this already without meaning to.
Yes. But to be fair,
alright,
that's
so
because the person who sent that in is a genius, because any egg lore is best lore.
Egg lore, best lore. Right, so for next week, what should our question be?
Who do you want to see get possessed by the egg?
Yeah. That's a good one. What character would you like to see possessed by the egg? Or I guess under the egg's control? Because like we just discussed, it's not really possession, it's more influence.
Yeah, it's like adjacent. It's like it covers the same realm. It's just not clinically correct. So yeah. Let's go.
See you next week.
Bye.
Well, thanks for listening to the 42nd episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. If there's any topic you'd like to hear us discuss, feel free to leave a comment or find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast, where you can also ask us questions or just get updates about new episodes. We also have a Discord server that you can find a link to in the description. See you next time!